Val, I think we are live. How is everybody? This is Dr. Dan Cardalicchio. Want to welcome you to another segment of Destination Health Podcast, Finding Function in a Dysfunctional World. And I am very excited today. We're going live on multiple platforms. I have a friend of mine who's just written a book. And we're going to discuss the book today. I'm still waiting for my book. So I think we're going to do multiple podcasts and we'll discuss the book because I think that Val has a great story. She's a nationally qualified bodybuilding figure competitor, personal trainer, life coach, loves to inspire and encourages people to unleash their inner superhero. I love that. Val.
Yes.
I know we spoke yesterday and the day before, but hey, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Texas.
Oh yeah, it's nice. It's okay in New Jersey. It's going to be now cold, and it's the cold weather starts kicking in right now. So so anyway, the book. Tell us about the book, Maksymizing Life.
I have the book right here.
I love that. And you can get this on Amazon, Maksymizing Life.
Yes.
Right. And tell me, what was the motivation to write this book? Because I know you want to motivate people, and you're already talking to me about writing a second book, right? You're like, oh, I got one out. Now I want another one, right?
Yes, I'll write multiple books. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, what was the idea behind this book?
This book kind of started evolving back about 20 years ago. I knew I was going to write a book. I just had it within me, and I can't explain it. Just knowing all that I had been through in my life, that there was a book in me to write. But, I battled my own negative self-talk, telling myself, if you can't even pass high school writing with, anything better than a D-, how are you going to write a book? I battled that, but I knew inside, I knew that I had this book. So it kind of evolved over time. And then after my second divorce, I had been through so many things in life, and I just naturally enjoyed talking to people, inspiring people, hearing their stories, encouraging them, motivating them, and realizing, I've been through so many things in life, probably more than most people do when you can check the bucket list of all the things you've actually been through. So going through those things actually helped me to be more empathetic in that of things that people go through, and just, I was good at listening. So I just decided, I need to write this book, and I can't explain it, but it would not let me go. Like I would say the last 5 years, and even more so the last 2.5 years. It's like, it was almost getting to the point, like, if you don't write this book, nothing in your life is going to start working out until this book is done. I mean, literally that's how I felt about it. So I just started writing, and it kind of evolved into the book. It didn't start out to be, like this. As I was starting, I was going to do something more in the fitness world, talking about my working out and how I did my figure show and my competition starting at 46 years old. And it kind of evolved into becoming a book of things that I have discovered over 50 years of my life that I wish somebody would have sat down and shared with me when I was younger.
You know what? That's what happens too. But now you're here and you want to motivate individuals to have a better life. Because I know that when you were on the first podcast, and just from our conversations, just you and I, you've had some lumps that you've had to take care of. And listen, we all have lumps in life, right? And to hear stories about how somebody overcomes that, I think, to me, is just so inspiring. And you have such an inspiring story. Spend a few minutes. Tell us what you went through in life. What was that like? What happened? And what brought you to this point today?
It's interesting. I was listening to something today, and I really resonated with this lady that, I might be a late bloomer in life, but, I've been through so many things. I feel like my life was compounded of everything, doing it all the wrong way until I got to a certain age of almost 45 years old. And I can look at that two different ways, but I look at it that it made me who I am today. And, it started out when I was a child. I wasn't diagnosed, but I really struggled in school. And, when you're young and you struggle in school, for myself, it just was my self-confidence of, I'm not smart. I can't figure this out. I can read the same book over 25 times and I can't answer the basic questions. Like, what's wrong with me? And that was a really big struggle starting off as a young child with my self-esteem. So that was like the biggest blow
Sure.
right there.
Sure. It sounds like you had some type of ADHD or ADD, which,
Mhm.
listen, for all of my listeners, they know that I have ADHD, and
Right.
it's like you're bopping all day long, and
Mhm.
you know what? It's okay
Right.
because it's not such a bad thing,
Right.
and it's a situation where if you use it for good, it's really it could be really very, very helpful. So what were some of the tools and techniques? Because you've had two marriages and they didn't end well. And what were some of the techniques? Because you had this negative self talk. What did you do to get some positive self talk in there to get you to the point where you're at right now?
I didn't even recognize that I had the negative self-talk and that until I was 47 years old. I just began to live my life that this is just the way things were. Like, this is just how it is,
Right.
like I said, I had the school things. And then at 12 years old, my dad passed away. And, so that was another big
That's
blow.
a very traumatic, that's a
Yeah.
very traumatic
At that
situation,
age, that's when a girl
especially.
is getting her self-confidence, around 13. So I had that. And, I'm sorry. I just went blank here. So you tell me the question again. I'm sorry.
So, what were some of the techniques that you used? You had all of this negative self talk, then all of a sudden, the age of 47, it comes about, and you're like, I don't want this anymore. What were some of those techniques, Val, that you
Oh,
used to get to the next level?
right. So I actually ran into a life coach. Didn't even know what a life coach was at a party, and I began to speak to her, and that kind of piqued my thought process. And I've got to figure this out. And I had a conversation with her, and we began talking about limiting beliefs and self talk. And so it was a very slow process, but I was going to figure it out because my saying was the rest of my life will be the best years of my life. I really didn't know what I was saying when I said that, but at the
Right.
same time, I'm like, I'm going to figure this out because this is no way to live life. I literally existed. I just literally, like, when you go like 46 years and your main goal to get through the day is just breathing, you get to a
Right.
certain point and you're like, there's more to life than this. So
Hmm.
I, I just really, I don't know. I just got lucky that I just really plugged into some of the right things and listening to some of the right people with just, they say your words create your world. And in the
Hmm.
beginning I would hear that and I'm like, okay, that seems kind of weird, but I just began to really think on that. Like, your words create your world. Like, okay, so if I start speaking things, it's going to change. But I think what that did for me when I started speaking the positive things, that it kind of lined up my actions to start doing those positive things
Right.
too.
Because a
So,
lot of times what happens is that words do have, besides meanings, it can motivate, it can bring you down somewhat, and if you don't use the proper words, and if you're being told, because you know what, right, we're the sum of those six people that are around us, and it sounds like you didn't have a lot of good people that were around you that were building you up, so they were breaking you down and they were letting you stay there, it sounds like,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
It
yeah,
wasn't like a former person that you were dating, they said, oh, Val, whatever, and then they broke you down, but they kept you there, and
mhm,
that's never a good situation to be in.
right.
And you become tolerant, right? Did you become tolerant of all of that stuff? You're like,
Yeah,
this is life, and this is what my life is all about. Although it's not really, but at that moment in time, you're just sitting there and you're listening to yourself and you're saying, I'm just so tolerant of all of this stuff. And so you just live your life, right?
and I even got to the point towards the end of my last marriage that I literally lost my voice. And when I say that, I just literally quit talking because it was like I just finally got to a point that, it didn't matter what I did, it was wrong. Didn't matter what I said, it was wrong. Didn't
Right.
matter what I wore, it was wrong. Didn't matter. It just didn't matter, and then you just are like, I can't explain it, but you just get so broken down that you don't even want to talk anymore. You're just checked out. Like, and
Right.
that was
Sure.
a really hard place to be whenever I did first talk to my life coach, because she asked me these basic questions
Right.
and I couldn't answer any of them. Like, where's your favorite place to go to vacation? Your favorite restaurant? Your favorite food? I just sat there, and I mean, to be in that place is a pretty low place to be in. And I just sat there and I would just cry, like, I can't answer the, I don't even know how to answer this. Like, I like pizza. Like, I don't know. I don't know I don't know what to say to you. Like, I don't have any of this.
Right.
And so,
so what was that life coach like for you then? What happened? What did that do in order to bring this about? Because it seems like that life coach had had a really profound impact on you, right?
You know, she really did. And I was in a place in my life where, you know, I didn't have any money. I had a credit card that had a little bit of money on it. And
right.
I went all in. It was like $1,200 for like 4 sessions or something.
Oh, geez.
5 sessions. And so, you know, it's pricey with, you know, having a life coach, but I just, for some reason, I was just drawn to, I have to invest in myself. Like, I can't explain it, because at the time, if you look at it on paper, you're like, okay, that would be really stupid to do that, because you don't need to be doing that. But looking back, that was the best thing I could have invested in myself, because the return,
yes,
slowly starting to, now I didn't get to stay with her because I could only do that package, but that was a good foundation for me to get started with. And then
absolutely
it led to, I decided I wanted to be a life coach, because I absolutely that's my passion. I probably life coach people for years and didn't even realize that's what
and
I
you
was
don't
doing.
even realize it. And I think one of the most important things is, for anybody that's listening today, you know, investing in yourself is really what is the most important aspect of this, right? Right, Val? Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, right? Because if you're not investing in yourself, it's just not going to work. So you need to invest in yourself, whatever that looks like, whatever that means to you, right? Because this is a situation where when you're investing in yourself, you get this growth, and then you just go to different places that you never thought that you could possibly go to. And you get that positive self-talk in there, as opposed to a negative self-talk, which is never happy, right?
Right. And, you know, your relationship with yourself is going to be the longest relationship you have. And when I started to think about that, I'm like, and I've invested zero in myself, just into everybody else. And so, and then every relationship you have is a byproduct of the relationship you have with yourself. So no wonder I was attracting the wrong things and the wrong, you know, stuff in my life, because I didn't have me figured out. I didn't even know who the true me was. So how can I attract the things that are meant for me? Because I'm living a false life. I'm not living to who, like, that's why. So when I say, you know, unleash your inner superhero, like that, when I talk on that, it just brings such passion to my heart, because all those years I knew something inside of me was there. I just didn't know how to get it out. I didn't know how to find it. And I didn't know how to feel safe to let it out. You know, when you have a thumb on you and you're always told you're wrong, it's kind of hard to try to be the true, authentic self. And when you do, then you get kind of reprimanded. You're like, oh, okay, we got to pull that back in. We can't get, you know, can't let that side of us out too much. And to get to a place where you just have that freedom to just to be, and just to be you, and just to know that you're enough, like you're enough just exactly the way you are today. And yes, we're constantly growing, but where you are today, you are enough.
And listen, you know, I think this is important, what you're saying. You are enough. And if you want to have more out of life, and if you're going to invest in yourself, that's very important to do. I have a professional business coach, right? That helps me out. I'm part of a mastermind group that's just wonderful. And I'm just growing by leaps and bounds. I'm serving humankind, you know, at a greater level than I ever thought I could, to be honest with you. And then I have a personal coach who helps me out with business, and he helps me out with personal stuff. And, you know, it's just amazing. And you're going through these trainings, and when you're going through these trainings, right, it's like, wow, because now you just start learning a ton, right? Now, all of a sudden, the learning is here. Now, all of a sudden, you feel better about yourself. Now, all of a sudden, you have positive self-talk, and then you can make it better for yourself. And you have children too, right?
I do, yes.
How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
You have 4 kids, and you want to be a positive influence on their life.
Yes, I do. That was a big part of me getting into life coaching too. Whenever I just realized, you know, if I could go back and redo a lot of things, I definitely would. But this is kind of a side, well, I guess this kind of goes along with that. But whenever I was at my lowest point and I was broken, I didn't realize how much I affected my kids. You know, I didn't realize how much that they took in and absorbed of that. And when I went through my second divorce, I took each of my kids aside and I apologized to them for the things that I had allowed in relationships and allowed for them to go through. And I said, I can't change the past, but I can change our future. And, we had really healing moments, crying tears moments I had with each of my kids. And so when I did start my life coaching, I asked each one of them, I said, can I start with you guys? Can we get on Zoom calls? And, my kids are older. My oldest is 32 this month, and my youngest will be 20 in a month. And I said,
your oldest is 32. You're only 25. How'd that happen?
Yes, exactly. And so it was just such a, it was just so healing for them to allow that and for them to be vulnerable with me and to open up with me. I mean, how, I don't know. I wish I could just, even be able to explain this more, because in my head, I want to explain it, but coming out with words, it always come out correctly. But
go for it. See what happens.
Just to see your kids to be so raw and vulnerable with you when you're coaching and you're asking the questions like, what made you go down that path? Why did you get on drugs? Why were you getting in these things and in jail? And like, why were you so angry? What was going on? And, whenever they, come back and share with you, it's, I had to just lower my ego and listen, because, you want to come back and say, no, that's not what it was. That's not how it was. And just to be able to have the, for me, just to let them feel safe in their,
right.
in their coaching session, what I'm saying? So I provided a safe space. There was no judgment. I let them talk. I let them heal, because what you have to realize is, as parents, what I've realized is my kids' journey is not my journey. So I can sit here and tell them they're wrong, and that's not how that happened. And you don't understand. That's not, and I could be justifying and I could be right in everything I'm saying.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if I want my kids to heal, that's not going to heal my kids. My kids, I need to understand where they're coming from and why they're feeling the way they're feeling.
Right.
And
sure.
Let them feel safe. Like they're in a safe spot that they can share with me. And, they opened up about so many things that no parent wants to hear, because then it makes you feel horrible as a parent. But at the same time, allowed them to heal. So all four of my kids, I would have to say, as a parent, I'm very blessed, because they're all in a place right now that I am just ecstatically, like, beyond words. Like
they're doing well. They're really doing well.
And we all have room to keep improving. So I'm not saying we're perfect, but everybody's in just a great spot, and it feels good, and they do watch me and they do call me. And when they have things go on, they're like, Mom, what do you think about this or that? So the fact that they would, want to hear from their mom, or like they want to go on vacation with me. They want to go to dinner with me. This weekend, my son, he plays golf. He's my 30-year-old. And he's like, hey, I want you to come to the golf course with me. And I just want my mom there. I want you just to be there to support me and just see how good I'm doing. And, I have those relationships with my kids. And so of course I'm going to be there.
Yeah, of course you are. And you know what? Listen, I'm having technological difficulties on this.
I knew something was going on, but we keep going.
We're just going. We're not going to stop, Val. We're having a great conversation. I'm definitely having, forget about it. I'm having technological difficulties here. And that's okay. Technology, we can't live with it or without it. But it really affects the children a lot, and they want to look up to a parent, and whoever that parent is, they want to look up to that parent, and they want to make sure that they are able to have that parent that they can emulate. They can have that parent that they can listen to, and they can have that parent that they can go to and discuss their problems. Because I know that you have shared with me off camera that, there were some struggles with some of your kids, and and how you felt a certain way, and how you felt, we all feel responsible, right? When it comes to our kids.
Yes.
Right. What does that look like to a parent? And it's very heartbreaking. And for you to work with them, and for you to get it up and get it going that way, it's just amazing, Val, on what you have accomplished. And really, I want you to talk to this. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can't stop growing. You're 47, and you said the buck kind of stops here. I'm going to become intolerant to things that I've been tolerating, right?
Right.
And I don't want that. But you could be at any age. You could be a teenager. You can be in your 20s and 30s and 40s, and you say, that's it. I've had enough, and now I need to figure out my life for the best.
Yes.
You don't have to be young. This is for those that have a couple of years on them, right?
Mm-hmm. Every age. You know, I tell people part of my maximizing life when I talk to people, there's many things maximizing life means, but you know, one thing I say, maximizing life is living level to level without getting stuck at any age. You know, I don't care if you're 20, 60, 70, 80, when you still have life, you still have reason and purpose and things to do. And, you know, never throwing in that towel. There's always, you know, more to do, more to learn, more to give, more to be, because I just think, you know, just living life to the fullest, all the way to the very end, you know, never getting stuck in that rut where you're just kind of like, okay, well, I've done all that I need to do, and get complacent and just get stuck, because that's not a way to live.
Yeah, you don't want that at all. And really, you know, it's one of those situations where you want to, you know, no matter what age you are, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You could be like me, you know, I'm going through transformations right now, and I'm going to be 61 in a couple of months. Oh my God, I can't believe I just admitted that, Val. I'm going to be 60. How old are you, Val?
You know what? I'm 51, but I changed age. I changed age to a different thing. I really did change my mindset on this, because before people would say, don't tell people your age. Like, you know, but you know, but now I realize, you know, I'm thankful that I woke up today. I'm thankful I made it to 51. You know, you have to really, not everybody makes it to 51. My dad passed away at 30. I mean,
right.
It's a gift. So when you're given that extra year, it's not, I don't look at it like, oh, I'm getting so old. I want to keep growing, accelerating, learning, like just continuing to live life to the fullest.
Right. I think that's great. I think that you should. And I think that you need to, think that you need to rock and roll, and you need to, you know, just continue on with your life. And we're just getting things popping up all over the place right now. Okay. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll figure that out. There you go. It went away. Things are happening here. This is my first time utilizing this. So,
and I'm glad you're doing this. I'm learning here. This is good.
All right. So on the bottom,
yes.
Okay, there you go. It finally came on. On the bottom is the link to get your book, right?
Yes.
It's the link to get the book, yeah. Maksymizing Life. And you can get it through Amazon. So there's the link. It's a safe link. I'm waiting for mine to come in. So I think that you should get it. And if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, because we are live, all right, we're going to be here for another 5 to 10 minutes. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments section. I got my phone, so we'll be able to talk and discuss, and we'll be able to, you know, answer any questions that you have. How tough was it to write this book?
You know, I look back on the book right now, and of course we get hard on ourselves. You know, it was tough. It was really tough, because I had a lot of, I'm still working on me. As I said, we're always growing. So I'm still learning how to be more vulnerable and share my stories. Because the one thing I don't want to do, anybody in my past that I have stories with and history with and things that I've been through, I'm not here to bash anybody. I've literally healed from every relationship, every circumstance, right, everything I've been through. And so I'm not here when I'm sharing my stories to be like, oh, poor me, look what they did to me. Because really I had to realize in my healing journey that I was a part of that. Because when people did treat me the way they treated me and the things I did go through, the bigger question was, I turned the reflection to myself, and is, Valerie, why did you allow that?
That's correct.
You know,
that is a very important point. And that's what I mean, what I was saying before, is that, you know, individuals, when you're going through stuff, it doesn't make any difference what age you are. Mm-hmm. As long as you come to an awareness and you recognize what is going on, I think that's extremely important. And I think that you'll find that Valerie's book is very useful and very, very helpful when it comes to this. So, all right, Valerie, if you can give our listeners, and we did this the last time, I want three different tips for success, 3 different pearls to help an individual out. What would they be? what would you, if I were sitting here before you and I came to you and I said, my life is in disarray, whatever that is, it doesn't make any difference what the circumstances are. What would you say to me if you were to give me 3 pieces of advice?
My first thing I would say is you have to be honest with yourself, because sometimes our life is in disarray and we have a tendency to point the finger at everybody else. And you can't fix something. I don't believe you can't fix something that you don't acknowledge. So, you know, when my life was in disarray and all my relationship issues and all the stuff I've been through, I was for a long time blaming, you know, pointing the finger and look what you did. And things didn't start changing for me until I was able to be real with myself and be, well, what part did I play in that?
Right.
And, you know, because I don't want to repeat that in my next relationship. Right. So I need to fix me. So I think you have to be real and raw with like what it is you're going through and what part you play in that. And then, another thing is I think you just have to really, consistency and persistence. Like, I think you just really have to be consistent in working on yourself. And see, I was very consistent for like 5 straight years before I started really seeing change in my life. But I knew I was doing the consistent things. I knew that I was, every day I get up and I have my routine in the morning and I say my positive affirmations. I listen to something positive every morning. I don't care what date it is, where I'm at vacation, something I need to get positivity in my mind. And so, and I'm consistent with it. I'm consistent and I'm speaking my things. And, you know, it took like 5 years, I would say, before things started breaking through, because that's just my time frame. So just because you're not seeing change like right away, we live in this microwave society that we're like, okay, well, you know, or you can even do it for weight loss. You know, I ate healthy for a week and I gained 2 pounds. So that doesn't work. I'm done. I mean, you have to stay consistent. Same thing with your self-growth. You have to stay consistent. And I would say, you know, you just stay consistent, and then challenges are going to come. Roadblocks are going to come. Detours are going to be taken. Things are going to happen out of your control. And you just have to, relentless is one of my words. You have to relentlessly hang on. And just regardless of the circumstances and the things that are going on around you that you have no control over, you have to pursue and be relentless in doing all the things that you know that you need to do to get to your end goal. And don't let that like stop you or derail you, or because it just prolongs the time from getting you there.
Right. And you know what? I think that this is an important point. So being honest with yourself, being real and raw, I think that's important. Being consistent and persistent, you know, with your self-growth, because not every day is a movie, right? Not every day is a movie where you are, where you're, you know, it's like, it's this great thing and people are cheering you on and people are doing whatever. You know that I'm training for a show, and I was in the gym yesterday and I was in there for about an hour and a half. I had absolutely what I thought was no energy. Val, I'm moving the iron, and I'm getting personal bests on benching and all sorts of things. So,
you know, when you say that, people say feelings are just feelings. We all have them. So you can't put too much in your feelings if you're not feeling like you're a certain way, because half the time that's not truthful.
Right. Because I'm getting done with my chest workout, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm kind of rocking it today, but I don't feel like I have any energy. Right. So, you know, be consistent. It's not a movie. And the point is, it's not a movie where the cameras are on you and, you know, everybody's cheering you on. You know, I turned off the music. Usually I'm jamming with my earbuds, and I got music going on, you know, and I'm kind of in my own little world, and I was just kind of looking around yesterday. I didn't have any music on. It just didn't feel it. Then I'm like, wow. You know, so I felt better about the workout, and I kept on going longer than I wanted to, because I was actually beginning to enjoy it. So it's not a movie. Be consistent, be persistent, and challenges are always going to come up. Oh, Val, here's one of the last questions, you know, because what happens is that you're going to hit challenges, and there's going to be naysayers that come into your life, right?
All the time.
Oh my, you know what? When the naysayers come in, Val, guess what? That means you're doing something what?
Exactly. And you can't let somebody else's opinion derail you from what you know you're to do, because it's just their opinion. and maybe you're not for them. And you just have to be, when you know that you're in your purpose and you're in your calling and you're in your walk, you have to know I forget how many people on this planet, not everyone's going to be like for you, and not everyone's going to be, and that's okay. But I believe if you're authentic and true and congruent to yourself, you're going to draw the right people in, and the people that aren't for you are just going to like go to the side. And you want that. You don't want to have all of the people that aren't for you.
You don't want that at all. You want to get rid of the naysayers. You know, it was interesting because I was talking with a friend of mine last week. We were on a Zoom phone call, and he does coaching, and he wants me to join his coaching through my mastermind group. And you know, I may do something, and he's like, listen, he said, I'm going to teach you skills. I've been on pretty popular shows, you know, where they're asking me. He's a physician, and I will tell you, every time I came off of a show, my email was blown up, and my text messages I got blown up, and I'm thinking that people are going to say, "Wow, that was great, that was wonderful." It was quite the opposite, Val.
Oh yeah,
you know, and we're people. So overcome that challenge as quickly as you can, because when you're in a phase of personal growth, jealousy from other people come out. Hopefully you'll be able to inspire them to something different, right?
I want to interject something there just real quick, because this was made known to me. A lot of times when people do lash out and they take the time to send you some hate mail, or they're not liking something, it's always a reflection of something that's going on in them. So,
right.
So, you know, a lot of times, because I do compete, and I am a, you know, figure competitor, and I am at my age, and I do things, and for whatever reason, I get women that want to feel the need to reach out through Facebook and say mean things to me. But I don't take it personally anymore, because I realize it's something in them that I triggered, and, you know, just like, okay, wish you the best. But I'm not going to let you get me off my track, because this is, you know, this is my calling, my purpose. And this is, you know, what I'm called to do. And I'm going to do my best to stay in my lane and focus on, you know, my goals and the things that I know I need to do. Right. I think the clearer you have your vision, for myself, I know the clearer my vision gets, the less and less the noise around me matters.
Yeah. And that's a very good point. The more your vision becomes clear, the more clarity you have, the noise around you becomes less and less. I have a client of mine that's a figure competitor, and she was sending me a couple of weeks or so ago, she was sending me some of the stuff that she was getting from both men and women, you know, and she was getting a little upset. And I said, listen, I said, the ladies, it seems like, you know, you're in really good shape. It seems like they kind of want to be like you, right? And they kind of want to, you know, be like that, but they don't know what to do. And maybe they're reaching out for help. I said, look at it that way, you know. So I wouldn't even respond in a way to defend yourself. And, you know, I would think I would just say, hey, listen, you know, I'm like this, and this is what I like to do. You know, it seems like you want to get in better shape. It seems like you want to transform your body some. If you do, give me, you know, here's my website, you know, go and get get that consultation. And by the way, she did, by the way, get a bunch of people coming in, you know, and I said, listen, you know, maybe some of the guys, maybe, you know, your physique is better than theirs, and they've been in the gym, and sometimes, you know, there's that jealousy that goes on. So, you know, I know that you primarily train females, but say, hey, listen, if you want nicer shoulders, let me know. And she got a couple of calls. So
right, yeah.
I said, so what's my, you know, from New Jersey, Val, what's my vig in this? What do I get? Do I get like 10% off the top? No, you don't have to give me 10%. So.
Yeah.
All right. Val, I'm waiting for the book. I am looking forward to the book. We're going to have another for all of our, you know, for all of the listeners. I'm going to start reading the book as soon as I get it. I think it's going to be coming in today. And so once it does, I'm going to start reading it. And then Val and I are going to be discussing the book. And we're going to have a series of podcasts going over the book. And you can come along with us. And here on the bottom, you will see the there's a banner. There's a ticker going across. Get that and get the book. You can get it from Amazon, and it's going to be a great book. So, Val, Very nice seeing you again. Very nice having you on.
Thank you.
And looking forward to our next conversation. Everybody get the book. Thank you, Val, for being here.
Thank you, Dan, for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Yes, and we will see all the next time. Get the book. There it is right there. There's the ticker. There's the book.
There's the
Maximizing Life. Come on now. I want all my listeners to get the book. Take care, all.
Okay. Thank you.